Hello dears, good morning. It's me, Miss Lincy, your English teacher. Nice to meet you again. Okay, now, welcome to the world of English. So, before we begin, let's ask the blessings from God the Almighty so that let His Holy Spirit enlighten us, help us and guide us through. Dear children, today we are going to study a chapter, The 100 Dresses penned down by Bsor Ester, who was an American children's author. She was born in West Haven. Her notable works are Ginger Pie, The 100 Dresses, and the Moffat series. Now, let me introduce you to the chapter. The lesson 100 Dresses is about a girl named Vanda who said that she has 100 dresses. But her classmates made fun of her because she was always seen wearing the same dress. Her classmates found her name to be funny, thus used to tease her for the same. Vanda was a girl who was very poor and did not have many friends. She was quiet and was always seen sitting in the corner of the classroom. The truth about the 100 dresses unveiled when the school conducted a drawing contest. Now, let's move on to the chapter. Chapter 5, The 100 Dresses. Today, Monday, Vanda Petronski was not in her seat. But nobody, not even Peggy and Madeline, the girls who started all the fun, noticed her absence. Usually, Vanda sat in the seat next to the last seat in the last row in room 13. She sat in the corner of the room where the rough boys who did not make good marks sat, the corner of the room where there was most scuffling of feet, most roars of laughter when anything funny was said, and most mud and dirt on the floor. Vanda did not sit there because she was rough and noisy. On the contrary, she was very quiet and rarely said anything at all. And nobody had ever heard her laugh out loud. Sometimes she twisted her mouth into a crooked sort of smile, but that was all. Now, let me give you the detailed explanation of the paragraph. The plot of the story opens up on a Monday. So, Vanda Petronski, who is the main character of the story, was absent on Monday, but nobody bothered about her absence. Even her classmates, Peggy and Madeline, who used to make fun of her, did not mind her absence. Vanda, the girl, usually used to sit in the last row of the class in room 13, where the noticed boys used to sit, and it was the dirtiest corner of the class. Next, the author describes the girl Vanda as a quiet girl who talks and laughs very rarely. But sometimes when she laughs, her mouth goes to one side, which means that she never laughs out from within her heart. Children, we will move on to the next paragraph. Nobody knew exactly why Vanda sat in that seat unless it was because she came all the way from Boggins Heights and her feet were usually caked with dry mud. But no one really thought much about Vanda Petronski Once she sat in the corner of the room. The time when they thought about Vanda was outside of school hours, at noon, when they were coming back to school, or in the morning, early before school began, when groups of 2 or 3 or even more would be talking and laughing on their way to the schoolyard. Then sometimes they waited for Vanda to have fun with her. So here it says that nobody understood or bothered why Vanda sat in the corner of the class. There were only guesses that it is because she came from Boggins Heights and her shoes were usually dirty with all the mud. People hardly noticed her in the class as she was silent and all alone all the time. It was only before or after school hours they thought of her, as they used to wait for her for the purpose of teasing. Children, we will move on to the next paragraph. The next day, Tuesday, Vanda was not in school either, and nobody noticed her absence again. But on Wednesday, Peggy and Maggie, who sat in front with other children who got good marks and who did not track in a whole lot of mud, did notice that Vanda was not there. Peggy was the most popular girl in school. She was pretty, she had many pretty clothes, and her hair was curly. Maddie was her closest friend. The reason Peggy and Maddie noticed Vanda's absence was because Vanda had made them late to school. They had waited and waited for Vanda to have some fun with her, and she just hadn't come. They often waited for Vanda Petronski to have fun with her. So here it says that even when Vanda was not present on Tuesday, no one noticed her absence. But it was on Wednesday, when Peggy and Maddie noticed her absence, when they were waiting for her to tease. Peggy was the most famous girl who wore good and costly clothes. She sat with the toppers of the class. Maddie was her best friend. Children, we will move on to the next paragraph. Vanda Petronski. Most of the children in room 13 did not have names like that. They had names easy to say, like Thomas, Smith, or Allen. There was one boy named Bounce, Willie Bounce, and people thought that was funny, but not funny in the same way that Petronski was. So here it says that Vanda was a Pole who had immigrated to America. Her classmates thought that Vanda Petronski was a strange name because they had simpler and easier American names except a guy named Willie Bounce. But they found Vanda's name to be long and funny. Children, we will read the next paragraph together. Vanda did not have any friends. She came to school alone and went home alone. She always wore a faded blue dress that did not hang right. It was clean, but it looked as though it had never been ironed properly. She did not have any friends, but a lot of girls talked to her. Sometimes they surrounded her in the schoolyard as she stood watching the little girls play hopscotch on the worn hard ground. So here it says that Vanda was all alone without any friends, and she always wore a faded blue dress that did not fit her properly. Of course, it was clean, but was not ironed, which shows that Vanda was a poor girl, belonged to a poor family. When she used to watch little girls play in the ground, a group of students used to surround her in order to make fun of her. Children, we will move on to the next paragraph. Vanda, Peggy would say in a most courteous manner, as though she were talking to Miss Mason. Vanda, she would say, giving one of her friends a nudge, tell us, how many dresses did you say you had hanging up in your closet? 100, Vanda would say. 100? Exclaimed all the little girls incredulously, and the little ones would stop playing hopscotch and listen. Yeah, 100. All lined up, said Vanda. Then her thin lips drew together in silence. What are they like? All silk? I bet, said Peggy. Yeah, all silk, all colors. Velvet too? Yeah, velvet too. 100 dresses. Vanda would repeat stolidly. All lined up in my closet. Then they would let her go, and then before she had gone very far, they could not help bursting into shrieks and peals of laughter. So here it says that Peggy the girl would tease her, asking the number of dresses that she owns. Vanda would say 100. So all the little girls would stop playing and listen to Vanda. So then she would stop talking. When again Peggy continues asking about the kind of materials, Vanda would say that she possesses all kinds of materials, including silk and velvet. Sadly, after she left, they all used to laugh at her. Children, we will move on to the next paragraph. 100 dresses? Obviously, the only dress Vanda had was the blue one she wore every day. So, why did she say she had 100? What a story! How many shoes did you say you had? 60 pairs, all lined up in my closet. Cries of exaggerated politeness greeted this. All alike? Oh no, every pair is different. All colors, all lined up. Peggy, who had thought up this game, and Maddie, her inseparable friend, were always the last to leave. Finally, Vanda would move up that street, her eyes dull and her mouth closed, hitting her left shoulder every now and then in the funny way she had, finishing the walk to school alone. So, it was hard to believe what Vanda said, because the only dress she was seen wearing was the blue one that was faded. No one was sure as to why she lied. Although they were teasing her, they were never rude or cruel to her. And then they would continue asking her about the number of shoes that she possessed, to which she would reply as 60. Peggy and Maddie The inseparable friends were the last ones to leave school in the afternoon, and Vanda would go back all alone with her dull eyes. Children, we will read the next paragraph together. Peggy was not really cruel. She protected small children from bullies, and she cried for hours if she saw an animal mistreated. If anybody had said to her, "Don't you think that's a cruel way to treat Vanda?" she would have been very surprised. Cruel? Why did the girl say she had 100 dresses? Anybody could tell that that was a lie. Why did she want to lie? And she was not just an ordinary person. Else, why did she have a name like that? Anyway, they never made her cry. Here it says that Peggy was not really cruel. She is a kind-hearted girl, as she treats the little girls and saves them from their elder ones at school. She also would feel pity for animals when they were getting badly treated. But she used to tease Vanda, as she used to think that Vanda was telling a lie regarding her dresses when she wears only the same dress daily. And she never made Vanda cry. Children, I will read the next paragraph for you. As for Maggie, this business of asking Vanda every day how many dresses and how many hats and how many this and that she had was bothering her. Maggie was poor herself. She usually wore somebody's hand-me-down clothes. Thank goodness she did not live upon Boggin's Heights or have a funny name. So here it says that in the case of Maggie, she never liked Peggy teasing Vanda, asking about the 100 dresses, because she too was from a poor family, and she usually wore somebody's clothes. And only the difference was that she did not live in Boggin's Heights nor have a strange name. Children, we will read the next paragraph together. Sometimes, when Peggy was asking Vanda those questions in that mocking, polite voice, Maggie felt embarrassed and studied the marbles in the palm of her hand, rolling them around and saying nothing herself. Not that she felt sorry for Vanda exactly. She would never have paid any attention to Vanda if Peggy had not invented the dresses game. But suppose Peggy and all the others started in on her next. She was not as poor as Vanda, perhaps, but she was poor. Of course, she would have more sense than to say she had 100 dresses. Still, she would not like for them to begin on her. She wished Peggy would stop teasing Vanda Petronski. So, Mattie did not feel comfortable when Peggy used to tease Vanda. So, she would silently count the marbles in her hand, pretending to play with them. She felt uncomfortable, not because she cared about Vanda, but because she worried that she could be the next person to be teased. But still, she wished that Peggy should not tease Vanda. Children, we will read the next paragraph. Today, even though they had been late to school, Mattie was glad she had not had to make fun of Vanda. She worked her arithmetic problems absent-mindedly. 8 times 8, let's see. She wished she had the nerve to write Peggy a note, because she knew she never would have the courage to speak right out to Peggy to say, "Hey Peg, let's stop asking Vanda how many dresses she has." When she finished her arithmetic, she did start a note to Peggy. Now, let me give you the detailed explanation of the paragraph. Peggy and Maddie got late for school as they were waiting for Vanda to tease. But Vanda did not come that day. So, Maddie was secretly happy that they could not get a chance to make fun of Vanda. She was lost in her own thoughts and could not study properly. All this time, she kept thinking about writing a note to Peggy, telling her to stop making fun of Vanda, which she did write after finishing arithmetic. She wanted to write a note because she knew she did not have the courage to say it on her face. Children, we will move on to the next paragraph. Suddenly, she paused and shuddered. She pictured herself in the schoolyard, a new target for Peggy and the girls. Peggy might ask her where she got the dress that she had on, and Maddie would have to say it was one of Peggy's old ones that Addie's mother had tried to disguise with new trimmings, so no one in room 13 would recognize it. So, while writing the note to Peggy, Maggie shook at the imagination of her being a new target for Peggy and the girls. She was afraid that they would ask where she got that dress from, which was actually Peggy's. Mattie was wearing Peggy's dresses, transforming it with the new laces and ribbons, so that none of her classmates could identify it. Children, we will read the next paragraph. If only Peggy would decide of her own accord to stop having fun with Vanda. Oh well. Mattie ran her hand through her short blonde hair as though to push the uncomfortable thoughts away. What difference did it make? Slowly, Maddie tore into bits the note she had started. She was Peggy's best friend, and Peggy was the best liked girl in the whole room. Peggy could not possibly do anything that was really wrong, she thought. So, Maddie wished Peggy to stop making fun with Vanda on her own. Suddenly, she ran her hand through her hair as a gesture to drive away all those thoughts. She said to herself, Peggy is the most liked girl in the room, her best friend, and so she could not be wrong. Thus, she tore and threw that notes away. Moreover, she was afraid of losing her friend Peggy. We will read the next paragraph. As for Vanda, she was just some girl who lived upon Boggins Heights and stood alone in the schoolyard. She scarcely ever said anything to anybody. The only time she talked was in the schoolyard about her 100 dresses. Maggie remembered her telling about one of her dresses, pale blue with colored trimmings. And she remembered another that was brilliant jungle green with a red sash. You would look like a Christmas tree in that, the girls had said in pretended admiration. Here we can see Mattie thinking about Vanda. She thought that Vanda was just another girl living in Boggins Heights who never spoke to anybody but spoke only about her 100 dresses, especially her pale blue dress and jungle green paired with a red sash. The girls made fun of her by saying that she would rather look like a Christmas tree in that dress. Children, we will read the next paragraph together. Thinking about Vanda and her 100 dresses all lined up in the closet, Mattie began to wonder who was going to win the drawing and coloring contest. For girls, this contest consisted of designing dresses and for boys of designing motorboats. Probably, Peggy would win the girls' medal. Peggy drew better than anyone else in the room. At least, that's what everybody thought. She could copy a picture in a magazine or some film star's head so that you could almost tell who it was. Oh, Matthew was sure Peggy would win. Well, tomorrow the teacher was going to announce the winners. Then they would know. So, while thinking about Vanda, Mattie began thinking about the drawing contest in which the boys had to design motorboats and girls had to design dresses. All the class suggested Peggy's name as the winner of the drawing contest as she was the best artist in the room. And all the class waited the result to be announced the next day. Children, we will move on to the next paragraph. The next day it was drizzling. Mattie and Peggy hurried to school under Peggy's umbrella. Naturally, on a day like this, they did not wait for Vanda Petronski on the corner of Oliver Street, the street that far, far away, under the railroad tracks and up the hill, led to Boggins Heights. Anyway, they weren't taking chances on being late today because today was important. So, the day when the results were to be announced, it was raining lightly, and thus the two best friends ran quickly to school without waiting for Vanda. Generally, they used to wait for her at the Oliver Street that led to Boggins Heights, the place where Vanda lived. But they did not wait that day. Even if it wasn't raining that day, they would not have waited for her because the day was crucial as the results were to be announced. Okay, children, we will move on to the next paragraph. Do you think Miss Mason will announce the winners today? Asked Peggy. Oh, I hope so. The minute we get in, said Maggie. Of course, you will win, Peg. Hope so, said Peggy eagerly. The minute they entered the classroom, they stopped short and gasped. There were drawings all over the room, on every ledge and window sill, dazzling colors and brilliant, lavish designs, all drawn on green sheets of wrapping paper. There must have been 100 of them, all lined up. These must be the drawings for the contest. They were. Everybody stopped and whistled or murmured admiringly. So, when the best friends entered the classroom, Peggy asked Mattie if Miss Mason would announce the results or not, to which Mattie said yes. Mattie told her that she believed Peggy would win. But to their surprise, when they entered the class, there were drawings all over the room, bright and brilliant, that everyone became surprised. So children, we will move on to the next paragraph. As soon as the class had assembled, Miss Mason announced the winners. Jack Buggles had won for the boys, she said, and his design for an outboard motor was on exhibition in room 12, along with the sketches by all the other boys. As for the girls, she said, although just 1 or 2 sketches were submitted by most, one girl, and room 13 should be proud of her. This one girl actually drew 100 designs, all different and all beautiful. In the opinion of the judges, any one of the drawings is worthy of winning the prize. I am very happy to say that Vanda Petronski is the winner of the girls' medal. So Miss Mason announced the winners after everyone had settled. Jack Buggles had won for the boys, and he drew an outboard motor which was displayed in room number 12 along with drawings made by other boys. Then she talked about girls' drawings. She mentioned that there was one such girl who had submitted 100 designs, each so beautiful, that the judges felt even one of those drawings were worthy of the gold medal. Miss Mason very proudly announced, Vanda is the winner of the contest. Children, we will move on to the last paragraph of the chapter. Unfortunately, Vanda has been absent from school for some days and is not here to receive the applause that is due to her. Let's hope she will be back tomorrow. Now class, you may file around the room quietly and look at her exquisite drawings. The children burst into applause, and even the boys were glad to have a chance to stamp on the floor, put their fingers in their mouths and whistle, though they were not interested in dresses. Look, Peg, whispered Mattie. There is that blue one she told us about. Isn't it beautiful? Yes, said Peggy. And here is that green one. Boy, and I thought I could draw. So, Miss Mason continued and sadly mentioned that Vanda has not been coming since days, hoping she would be there the next day. She instructed everyone to look at the flawless collection, to which everyone applauded and whistled. Mattie and Peggy even saw the blue dress that Vanda had talked about. It was beautiful. Peggy sighed. I thought I could draw, which means that the drawings left her in immense admiration. And they could see the wonderful green one too. Children, hope you could follow me. So now it's time to wind up the session today. I request all of you to like and subscribe my channel.